After the massive success of Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man film, Sony immediately began work on the sequel. The film was set to be titled The Amazing Spider-Man, and screenwriter Alvin Sargent was tasked with bringing the Stan Lee storyline, Spider-Man No More, to life. It seems the creative team's efforts paid off, because Spider-Man 2 was not only a massive step up from the first film in terms of overall quality, but also cemented itself as one of the greatest superhero films of all time. Once again, Sam Raimi's unique vision allowed for many elements to be introduced that still influence the character to this day.
It totally worked last time.
However, as with many films, there are multiple ideas and concepts that couldn't make it into the final product. What elements ended up on the cutting room floor, and was it a good idea to cut them out of the movie? In Spider-Man 2, Dr. Octopus is an important character to Peter's emotional arc, a bright-minded man who decides to use his gifts in order to pursue his ambitions. Unfortunately, due to a freak accident involving their loved ones, their worlds are changed forever. However, where Peter decides to use his gifts in service of others, Otto still can't move on from his past ambitions, which eventually leads to his ultimate demise. Dr. Octopus was originally the villain of the first Spider-Man film. As you can see from the multitude of concepts, Otto seemed a lot more nerdy, campy, and theatrical, with even his tentacles closely resembling his comic counterpart. This look did work for the tone and aesthetic of the first Spider-Man movie. However, for Spider-Man 2, which was a much more serious film, Dr. Octopus's design needed to match more with his broken emotional state. His almost noir-style attire, combined with his rusty and more animalistic tentacles, helped create one of Spider-Man's more imposing villains on screen. This iconic Dr. Octopus design was thanks to artist Paul Catling, whose concept art captured exactly what producers were looking for. The illustrations gave the feeling that there was still some humanity left within Otto, only to face the brutal reality that the arms were truly the ones in control. As you can see from the concepts, Otto appeared much more muscular here than he did in the final film. In fact, many of the concepts illustrates him in varying sizes, like these concepts by artist Paul Catling, who portrayed Otto as much more lanky and skinny. What I found most interesting about Catling's concepts is the fact that Otto's arms appeared to be fixed with bright blue flashlights, which in my opinion was a really nice touch that I wish made it into the final film. Speaking of the arms, they've gone through many designs and concepts during the film's development. At one point, the arms attached to Otto in the form of a large square backpack, instead of being mounted to his waist like the more traditional versions. In this concept by artist James Carson, the tentacles look like they came out of an H.R. Geiger illustration, appearing as if the arms were some kind of biomechanical parasite of alien origin. In fact, James Carson himself stated that he intended for it to feel alive, an intelligent machine that combined itself with Dr. Octavius. The idea of making the arms sentient was an element that still made it into the final film. In this concept, also created by James Carson, the tentacles appear to be powered by some kind of strange blue liquid, creating a much more cyberpunk aesthetic than the more grounded look we got in the final film. And just like the other concepts, they attached to Octavius in the form of a backpack-like object. The idea of having the arms powered by a strange liquid was once again used in this concept. However, this time the liquid is green and the arms are noticeably more tactical. When creating the iconic tentacles, artists had the difficult task of making them look graceful and efficient, but also dangerous and powerful. The arms needed to look organic, but also mechanical at the same time. The arms needed to give off the feeling that they were intelligent and could engage in multiple tasks at once, while also realistically reacting to Otto's movements. They also needed to be precise and capable of performing many mundane tasks, such as grabbing incredibly small objects, or even playing the piano. Some of the concepts leaned more into the slim and modern approach. They looked quick and stylistic, however their futuristic appearance made them look more like an expensive accessory. As a result, they lacked the intimidation factor and didn't look as tough as they could have. Other designs looked much more rustic and powerful, leaning more into how terrifying and dangerously efficient the arms could be. However, they appeared as if they were created as weapons intended to cause immense harm, not tools meant for safely operating Otto's fusion device. My favorite of these concepts are the ones created by artist Tim Flattery. They looked modern and versatile, but still appeared capable of performing heavy-duty tasks. It seems this concept was also popular among the filmmakers because they ended up creating a 3D mold of the design. There were a handful of concepts for Otto's fusion device, with many of the illustrations closely resembling what we got in the final film. However, not all the concepts looked like the device we saw in the final movie. Like this one for example, which was a see-through spherical device that encased both Otto and the fusion reaction in a confined space. This concept placed the fusion device in a more grounded and traditional lab setting, which was nice but was devoid of any personality. This final concept imagines the fusion device as a large spherical object with beams of light shooting from all directions. One of the most interesting concepts I've come across is this one, an insertion device that was meant to attach the arms to Otto's back. The fact that this device went through multiple different iterations showed that it was highly considered for the film. However, at some point it was scrapped in favor of a more simple method. In this concept by Alex Tavalaris, Dr. Octopus is shown to have a mural depicting him and his mechanical arms as the next phase of human evolution. Now, this mural is clearly taking influence from Leonardo da Vinci's Universal Man, which does reveal Otto as a man with a huge sense of self-importance and egotism, a character trait that may be accurate to the comics, but just doesn't fit well with Sam Raimi's version. Long before the start of Spider-Man 2's development, producers were still considering which villain Spider-Man would face off against next. One of the many villains that was tossed around during this time was the iconic Spider-Man foe, the Lizard. In hopes of getting picked for the film, artist Konstantin Sekeriz created several concepts in an attempt to get Marvel executives interested in his vision. The first concept leaned more into practicality. It was meant to look like a suit with an animatronic mouth. The second concept took a more digital and CGI approach to the design. These designs for the Lizard looked terrifying. However, in the end, Sam Raimi decided to use Dr. Octopus as the main villain. Black Cat was another character considered early in the film's development. However, just like the Lizard, her character never made it past the conceptual stages. Although many of these concepts didn't make it into the final film, it's always fun to look back at the unused ideas, and it's interesting to speculate on the multitude of different directions the characters in film could have went.